Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bitcoin News Hour, brought to you by Cafe Bitcoin, the most active Bitcoin club on Clubhouse. During the Bitcoin News Hour, we will cover all the latest headlines in Bitcoin, but this isn't your normal network news show where they talk and you just listen. Today's headlines will be presented and discussed by you, the members of Cafe Bitcoin. To participate in the Bitcoin News Hour, simply change your avatar to the headline you'd like to talk about. Today's moderators will then bring you up from the audience. You'll get 1 to 2 minutes to introduce the headline and give everyone the gist of the story. And then everyone will discuss the news before we move on to the next headline. Now, before we get started, do us a favor and click the plus sign at the bottom right of your screen to invite anyone you know who might enjoy this show. And if you're new to Cafe Bitcoin, click on Cafe Bitcoin at the top left and join the club. You can also visit cafebitcoin.club to find our full schedule of events, as well as a fantastic list of beginner Bitcoin resources. And now, get your headlines ready because it's time for the Bitcoin News Hour.
God, I love that, Brecky. I'm sure at some point I'll need you to switch it up, but don't for a while. Welcome, everybody, to the room. You probably just heard that intro. I'll do it one more time because I see the room is piling in. Go ahead and ping some folks. We're going to go ahead and cheat off each other so we all don't have to read every article all day, every day. This is the Bitcoin News Hour. I'm your host, John, with my good friends Dustin, Brecky, Dennis, Andrew, and the whole crew. There'll probably be some other folks there. If you're a regular contributor and you want to come on stage and just chime in, don't have a story, by all means, feel free. If not, please make sure you change your avatar to a headline. Come up on stage if we haven't already covered it. Hopefully it's from today, unless it's incredibly relevant and maybe a broader story. And we'll tell us a little bit about the story in about 1 or 2 minutes. We'll talk about it for no more than 3 or 4 minutes. Hopefully we'll be able to cover something like 12, 15 stories in the hour and get all caught up within the hour and not have to read everything ourselves. So we'll do the Bitcoin News Hour / Cliff Notes, and we'll go ahead and get started with my main man, Dustin. Dustin, let's talk about Taproot.
John,
go ahead, Travis.
Before you guys get started, where can we find the recordings of these? Because sometimes I'm teaching or something. I'd love to go back.
Yeah, great question. So we're posting them on the Swan Signal site, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll retweet it. Brecky's been getting them turned around pretty quickly. So I'll retweet it after Brecky posts it, and I think it's just on Swan Signal. I think it might be going on to Bitcoin TV as they're getting that back up and running. But Brecky's actually on a call right now, so I don't want to bother him about that. I'll follow up with you on that, Travis, before the end of the show.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Yeah, no worries. Dustin, you want to kick off with Taproot? I saw Ben the Carman tweet earlier. I have not been able to follow up on the details. So what's the good word, bro?
Yeah. Are you reading my news article there?
Yeah, Dustin, the Taproot article.
Hell yeah. So the news is that Taproot speedy trials officially merged into the code base, and the speedy trial process has now begun.
Honestly, that's like fantastic news. Like they've been debating for months about like how to implement it. And the crazy thing is the code is reviewed, the code is tested, the code is merged. There's just difficulty around getting consensus on how to activate it. And so that fact that this has been merged into core is absolutely huge, because the expectation for Taproot activation was about like a year and a half. But with this, it could be shortened down to like 8 months.
Sweet.
So there's a possibility we're going to celebrate this happening getting the consensus required in Miami.
That one.
All around drinks.
Could the brilliant people in the room, maybe Dustin, explain, for me especially, I've actually not heard of the speedy trial. I thought we were going to be waiting much longer. So I'm super excited about the timeline being shortened. But could you explain a little bit what a speedy trial is?
Well, I think you're right, Dennis. We were waiting a lot longer, and a bunch of devs were like, this is stupid. And they made a new proposal that's just like, let's just fucking speed this shit through. And they called it speedy trial.
So what they do is okay. No, Travis, you go.
No. I was just saying I think that's hilarious. That's all.
So yeah, I chose this article too. So basically, the way that my understanding is, the way it works is that over the next 3 months, there needs to be a certain threshold of the miners that need to agree to implement this, and then once that happens, it sort of gets implemented. Is that not correct?
Yeah, so they're signaling that they're going to upgrade and that they support Taproot, but then there's a 6-month activation period, and so it won't actually go live until like 6 months after like it's officially been locked in, and then yeah, so that's pretty much like the process.
So basically, like minimum of 9 months from like today.
I don't know about today. I don't know when they start signaling. Yeah, I think it's locked in by block height.
Wait, so does this
In
mean
May.
does this mean lot true versus lot false doesn't matter anymore?
It's false.
Yes, more or
It's-
less. I
Wait,
mean,
can I?
yeah.
So yeah, so if the first signaling period doesn't work, then it just fails, and then people will go back to the drawing board about like how they can repropose something to get more consensus and to actually get it activated with the supermajority.
Do you think they would have
Hey,
tried to do this speedy without knowing that they had consensus, or is it sort of assumed that it's going to be implemented?
My general sense is that most everybody is in favor of the speedy trial.
Yeah. Hey guys, this isn't Dustin. This is actually Colin Harper, the author of that speedy trial post for CoinDesk. Great thoughts. Just wanted to jump in with the fact that the cool thing about speedy trial is if we get 90% of hash rate signaling for Taproot after the client is released, like whenever it happens, this could happen a month after the client's released, it could happen a week after. Once we get that 90%, it will lock in, and then 3 months after that time, we will have Taproot. So latest, if speedy trial is successful, the latest we will have it is November, but it could be earlier. So put on your bullish hard hats, guys.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's awesome.
Thanks for that. Yeah, 3 months instead of 6. My fault.
And then I guess for people that don't, I mean,
Andrew,
I'm not
you're
that
not
technical,
wrong that the
but
whole time frame is 6 months. Like the whole thing is 6 months. Like 3 months to signal for the miners, and then after that, 3 months delay from the successful lock-in to it actually being activated. Does that make sense? So like once we get it locked in, there's a 3-month dead period afterwards, just in case there's something wrong, so that everyone can be on the same page.
So you're saying 3 months, but what's the incentive for the miners to signal in that short of a time frame? What's going to drive that?
I mean, there's no reason for them not to signal. I mean, it's like, this is the apathy that like kind of drove a lot of conversations around putting in a user-activated software. Because they like, if miners are sitting on their hands, then we have a problem. But I don't think that's like there's no reason for them to wait, right?
Dustin, we're losing you there, buddy. Or I guess it's not Dustin actually right now. So.
Oh yeah, sorry,
Colin.
we're driving.
Yeah, we lost.
Are we back here now? Can you hear us?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, is that the incentive question again? Oh, yeah. I don't think the miners are incentivized not to activate it. Like, there's not it's like SegWit where miners would stall it. I mean, if they do, it's literally just them. So, I mean, that's an attack vector. So, you can think about it.
Awesome. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? I know we got a little bit of a first-hand account to this article. Aaron, do you want to chime in?
What happens if the speedy trial fails? Are we just going back to the old?
Yeah, so if speedy trial fails, then we're back to the drawing board. And like, this is actually, I didn't report on this because like, I don't think that it's necessary to. And I also think it would cause more confusion than not. But there's actually a contingent of community members who are activating Taproot early through like a fork in the code. Don't worry, this isn't a big deal. It's not going to cause any consensus issues. They talked about it on IRC this week. But like, it was Shinobi and a bunch of other people. Michael Folkson was another one who's behind it. And the idea here is they're releasing a client with BIP 8 true, like USFA, from the get-go. Because per your point, like if this fails, what happens? Well, then, as Shinobi put it, we need to draw a line in the sand. Like if this fails, then everyone's fears about miners, fucking up the soft fork process are true, and maybe we really do need to make sure that soft forks have some sort of user activated soft fork or something like that to push things going forward.
Yeah, but from what I understand, it's not like a lot of people. And I mean, if 5 or 8 nodes run that software, it's pretty insignificant. So yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was kind of hesitant to bring it up, like, because it's not going to cause any, like, assuming Taproot activates. I mean, even if it doesn't activate, nothing bad will happen from those people running that fork. But like, the point in Shinobi and all of them running it is it's basically their ideological stance. They're saying like, we're just going to put this in there from the get-go because we might need it. Anyway.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you chiming in on that, Dustin. Thanks for the assist.
Fuck yeah, man.
Super pumped about that.
Phony money, paying for real money. Cramer sells some Bitcoin and pays off a home mortgage. In fairness,
Horrible.
I have read this article. I have, but I won't cheat. Go ahead, Dennis.
No, you could tag team it with me, John.
No, Jason. Well, yeah, I'm not tagging teaming a lot with you, but high five on the article.
All right.
But Jason sent it to me earlier today, and it's been memeing him on Twitter. So, but go for it, Dennis. Tell us about Jim Cramer's paper hands.
Yeah, Jim Cramer, ultimate paper hands. If that's even probably a little weaker than paper. But I mean, to the two things that I think I took away while reading the article versus just reading the headline is that it's not even as good as the headline makes it out to be. He's been selling Bitcoin all the way up to 60 plus K. So it's like, you think in your head for a second, you're like, oh, well, he sold half his stack at 64K. Okay, not too bad. Well, no, he's actually been selling this whole time. So he hasn't really been. It's not as profitable as one would think. That's the best case scenario. But also, I like to talk about these kind of articles because I think a lot of people out there are wondering, what am I going to do with my Bitcoin? And I've had friends who tell me this. They're like, I'm gonna pay down my mortgage, and I think it's a really bad idea. For one, you have to pay taxes on all of the Bitcoin that you just sold. And the other question I always like to ask them is like, if you have your Bitcoin today, would you actually buy a home with it? And if not, then why are you paying off your mortgage with it? People are actually doing the opposite of this today. They're pulling equity out. They're taking debt. They're taking out loans. Michael Saylor is going into debt to be able to buy more Bitcoin, and Jim Cramer is literally doing the opposite of what every intelligent investor is doing today. I mean, it is going to be permanently etch him onto the wall of shame. He's going to be one of those people that we constantly track forever to show and prove how horrible of an idea it is to sell your Bitcoin. So, Jim Cramer, sorry to say it, but paper hands. You should hold on to your Bitcoin, never sell it. He's going to really be feeling the pain come the next 4 or 5 years.
It also depends on his personal situation. I mean, I don't think he leveraged before, but for guys like, for instance, me, who already did a speculative attack on the dollar a while ago and are leveraged to the hilt in the fiat world, may need to sell a little bit in order to be comfortable with your debt position in the legacy system. So, yeah, there's different situations for different people, but for someone who's already irresponsibly long, you never know. Just don't make fun of me if I have to sell any, okay?
I think that's a different situation.
Yeah,
I do want to jump in. Andrew, feel free to comment on this, but I know you got to bounce, and I really want to cover this ETH story. You and I were talking about this in another room, obviously. We don't usually cover a lot of ETH news, but I think it's relevant to understanding why Bitcoin's like actual real money and sound money.
This came up this morning in Cafe Bitcoin too.
Yeah, awesome. So, Andrew, do you want to jump in on that before you bounce?
Yeah, so yesterday, Ethereum had a hard fork, and everyone claimed it was successful, but later on they found out that there was one Ethereum client, which had I think 12% of the Ethereum node network. There was a bug in one of the clients, and it actually created a chain split, a fork in the Ethereum chain. And so the funny thing is, this also affects ETH 2.0. If people don't know, people have sent Ethereum into the ETH 2.0 network to start staking and earning rewards. But those validators actually are losing out on revenue because of this bug. And so this brings up the question of like, if I were a validator and if I were to upgrade to the newest client and there was a bug in the client, could I lose all my Ethereum that I've staked so that I can become a validator? And the answer is yes, this is possible. Validators are kind of put in a position where now it's kind of like a catch-22. It's a lose-lose situation because Ethereum developers do not have a security-minded approach to code review. Do I upgrade to the newest software and just risk losing my staked funds? Or do I just not upgrade and just, and then, you're running off a separate fork anyways. And so you're just not going to win. And so, yeah, that's kind of what happened and is still continuously going on and hasn't been resolved yet.
So real quick, this came up in Cafe Bitcoin this morning. Gentleman came up and saying he was having issues, and we quickly closed him down. But then Shannon brought this up and said that it's been a mess, and that this is going to affect everything, NFTs, all the shit that's on Ethereum. I don't understand fully because I'm not going to dive into that stuff, but it sounds like it's going to be a shit show.
So here's the thing about NFTs. Like the whole point of NFTs is that it's non-fungible. There's only going to be one, and like it can't be duplicated. It's cryptographically secure, whatever, right? Now that there's a chain split, there are now 2 copies of the same token on 2 different networks. So that completely removes the non-fungibility of it. Like now, eventually, the developers, Vitalik, they're gonna like coordinate with one another and be like, "Oh no, this is the right chain, right?" And then so on one, it shows like how centralized it is. But let's take a step back. If this was a hard fork and it was a contentious hard fork like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, that means the second network that it forked from would persist. Now you have a token that exists on 2 networks that are running simultaneously, that are live simultaneously, and it's really difficult to say this NFT is the real NFT while the other one's a counterfeit. And the reason is because value is dependent on the community that says, I believe in Bitcoin, I believe in Bitcoin Cash, right? Those are the people who say, no, this is actually the real authentic chain, and therefore the NFT is valid on this chain. And so what this just kind of highlights the problems and like of overselling the Ethereum community does when it comes to the NFT stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Andrew. Terrence, feel free to jump in.
Oh, sure. So I just wanted to suggest that NFT should stand for nice fungible tokens because the Ethereum community is so nice. That's like their main asset, if not only asset. I'm kidding.
But I mean, I think that
Okay,
this is the
joke.
type of stuff that no, it's okay. I make bad jokes all the time. You just have to be a dad to give you licenses to do that shit. But all joking aside, the real take on this, I think, is this isn't like a surprise for a lot of people in the room. The reality is this is just kind of, I hate to say it, and I told you so, component of understanding how broken ETH is. And it's not just broken in this way, it's broken in a lot of other ways. But for the purposes of covering the news story, Andrew, I know you got to bounce, so do it when you can, but I appreciate you covering that story. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that story before I quickly reset the room? Yes, Neil, I said reset the room.
I just think it's ironic on the same day
ahead.
that Bitcoin merges speedy trial to activate Taproot that Ethereum has this issue.
It's actually a pretty funny point.
And Taryn said that the ETH people are nice. I mean, scammers are nice to your face.
Exactly.
And then they stab you in the back. So people who are upset when Bitcoiners.
Hey, Neil, that news is 2 days old already. We already covered that news.
Oh.
But
yeah, I'm just saying, so when people get upset that Bitcoiners aren't nice, maybe they should look at that as a good thing. Even though I don't think we're not nice, I think that's just a misconception.
Neil is pretty much the worst, guys. Just don't follow that guy.
He's also
unfollow him.
Surprisingly violent. Jeet Sidhu had a good tweet today about people who are nice being scammers usually, or often.
And I was trying to cue up the Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood music, Neil, for your Mr. Rogers take on or at least my take on you being Mr. Rogers, but I'm too busy trying to respond to all these text messages.
I'm just happy you forgot about that other nickname.
Can I briefly?
No, I won't mention it here, but I haven't forgotten it. In other rooms, you'll be renamed, my friend. Hey, go ahead, Andrew.
No.
I just want to briefly touch on that leveraging your Bitcoin to purchase a house. Very briefly. So you should use lending facilities like Unchained Capital or maybe even BlockFi, but mostly Unchained Capital to leverage your Bitcoin to take out a loan and collateralize your Bitcoin and take out US dollar loan. Here's why. If you sell your Bitcoin, you have to pay capital gains. Depending on what state you're in, could be like 15%, 30%, all that good stuff, right? That's a huge amount of chunk of changes to pay for it. If you collateralize your Bitcoin and take out a loan, all you're doing is paying 6% of that back. And there's no cap gains when it comes to that. And you pay 6% per year. And so if you pay back your loan within that year, you only pay 6% to get cash that you've now put towards your home. So 30% versus 6%, right? That's 24% that you saved by collateralizing your Bitcoin as opposed to selling your Bitcoin, paying the cap gains, and all that stuff. So that's something I want you guys to consider if you were to try to leverage your Bitcoin for your house.
And you get to keep the Bitcoin's appreciation along the way.
100%.
Andrew, I appreciate you. Terrence, before I quickly reset the room, Bitcoin News Hour. Guys, there's a lot of people missing out on the news of the day and are going to probably have to read this all on their own. So do me a favor, ping your friends, tell them to come cheat. We don't have to read everything ourselves. Got enough to read, enough to listen to. If you want to participate, and this isn't our audience participation kind of a format, please tell us the story you read today by changing your avatar to the headline of that story. If you have any, if the story's already been covered, please hold off on it. Or if it's from another day, please hold off on it. But simply put, if you have a story, come on up, tell us about it in 1 or 2 minutes. We'll cover it for about 3 or 4 minutes and try to get through about 10 or 12 news stories a day. Terrence, tell me about the FUD that you got there. What's going on?
Sure. So the New York Times updated their terrible article on Bitcoin and crypto using lots of energy to make 2 kind of corrections out of the 10 that Nick Carter has identified as kind of the minimum number of mistakes, corrections, and FUD they're spreading. Nick tweeted this out about 6 hours ago today. But basically, the correction was, so they basically say things like, Bitcoin may move to proof of stake just like Ethereum, and as many of us have predicted, the Ethereum people are coming out, and as they move to proof of stake, they're going to be attacking Bitcoin as using too much energy, jumping on the environmental FUD bandwagon. So I thought it was important to note, even though the story technically came out yesterday, but the New York Times has been updating it, and Nick Carter had to write a long Medium piece rebutting it. And the reason is because right now, the immediate threat to Bitcoin in terms of psychological warfare and marketing and propaganda is the environmental FUD. A couple weeks ago or several days ago, it was Bitcoin is anti-patriotic or anti-US. So we're going to continue to see these attacks on Bitcoin. So it's important for those of us who care about Bitcoin to have our arguments in place and kind of organize and have the rebuttals and better arguments ready.
Bitcoin boils the oceans. You heard it here first. I'm just kidding. So yeah, I mean, obviously those who spend a lot of time in the Cafe Bitcoin rooms, we've pretty much diced this FUD up every day. It's just an absolute bonkers argument for so many reasons. Nonetheless, we won't do that in this news format. Terrence, thanks for covering that. Unless anyone else has another take on that particular story. And I'm going to be bouncing here in a few minutes. So Dennis, thanks for taking over. I will send you the outro music here shortly, Dennis, just so you don't miss that. It's awesome. Aaron, tell us about your story, bro. Tell us about what we can learn from it.
Yeah, so interestingly, Barry Silbert's Grayscale.
Aaron, you might have muted yourself on accident there. Aaron, you there still? I don't know if he knows if he muted himself or not. Why don't we give Aaron a minute? We'll come back to Aaron. Sean, do you want to go through your story next?
Yeah, sure, guys. So for your daily dose of busting the energy FUD in terms of mining as well, this was a great podcast by Compass Mining this morning with a company called Mint Green. They're fellow Canadians out of Vancouver, actually, and it just blows my mind how inventive that Bitcoin miners are, because they're using immersion cooling systems to trap the waste heat from the miners, and they're selling that waste heat to industries, in this case a distillery to make whiskey, and also a gourmet salt company to literally boil seawater, boil the ocean to make salt. So yeah, it's just so unbelievable that they're able to capture that waste heat and then reuse that and sell it on to industries that are already using electricity, which essentially doubles or halves their the mining environmental output, and it increases their bottom line as well. So it's just a beautiful example of the free market at work in Bitcoin mining.
Dude, there's like so many layers to this meme of it's how much salt the critics of Bitcoin have and boiling the oceans.
It is so awesome, man. Boil the ocean, salty. There's whiskey in there. It's just amazing. And this is also a company that is getting a lot of VC funding from, for instance, from Melton Demirs and CoinShares, and it's so great because mining is actually able to utilize the ESG narrative that mainstream guys have to have now because of all the virtue signaling that they're made to do. So.
All right, Sean, I got to jump in here because I got to bounce. I hate when people I've got to tell people you're bouncing. It's Clubhouse. You don't got to tell people that shit, right? But Mark, do you want to make some inside news here today? I invited you on stage because you're my homie, number one. But number two, I know you were working in the backgrounds trying to help some large pocketed, entity, let's just say. I'm not going to out you, but, I want to know if you want to break some news here today or not.
I can't say who, but my company contracts to a Fortune 10, and we do big work for them in the computer cybersecurity world. And they knew that I was into crypto, and one of the larger managers who I kind of orange pilled a few weeks ago, and he just won't stop talking to me, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, I was invited to give the corporate management of a Fortune 10 a 46-page PowerPoint on Bitcoin.
Wow.
So it took me almost an hour to go through it, and it was silence at the end of it. And it wasn't a silence of not interest, but a silence of holy shit. And I'm telling you, it was really interesting at the end. And now I'm getting on Teams chat, I'm getting these messages from everywhere going, holy crap, how do I buy? How do I get into it? We need to learn more and all that. So Fortune 10 company.
Bravo, Mark. Bravo.
Thank you.
See, at the Bitcoin News Hour, we don't just cover the news, we fucking make it. Nice shit,
Hell
Mark.
Hell yeah, man.
Way to go, bro.
Hey, you bet. And
So
John,
you know what Phil
slides.
Jackson used to do, by the way? You know what Phil Jackson used to do if there was a free throw to be made, right? Like they put Michael Jordan on the line, right? Like felt good with you going up to bat there, man. Nice work.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Hey, Mark, how much time did you spend in Bentonville?
In what?
In Bentonville, Arkansas?
Oh, I wasn't. No, I've never been there. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, it's whenever I recommend anyone gets a chance to give a talk. It really you get a chance to put all your thoughts out on paper, and it really solidifies the argument really well, and it was a really good thing for me to go through too.
Mark, I don't know if you would be open to sharing or even able to share, but I'd love to see those slides. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, on Twitter, just shoot me a message, and I'm happy to. There'll be a Google link because they're a big one, but yeah, I'll send them out to you. Not a problem. Anyone who wants them.
Yeah, I'd love
Excellent.
to see that as well. I'd love to see that as well, Mark. It's
Yeah, you're welcome.
it'd be
Yeah,
really interesting to see what you compiled that made them so
yeah.
speechless.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you know what? It was kind of tongue in cheek, like that, like I'm making jokes about stuff and poking fun at ETH and so forth. And they were very, very, you know, not from my speaking style or anything amazing. It was just they were hit with this data that they had never seen before. And it's all, you know, a lot of it came from you guys, you know, in Clubhouse.
Dude, I'm
That's
so glad
awesome.
this call got pushed back 15 minutes, Mark, because I just want to hear more about the Fortune 10. And all I keep doing is doing deductive reasoning. I won't out you. I won't put you on the spot. I will be respectful. But I've
No
done some
worries.
deductive reasoning. I've done some conclusioning from conversations, and I think I'm onto something here, Mark. But it
Yeah,
doesn't matter because I
yeah.
don't care whose money it is. I just want that money in the liquidity pool. I want that stuff
Exactly.
hodled forever. So let's go. Hey Joe, come on up, man. Where'd you go? Trying to bring you up.
Hey, Mark, you on Telegram?
I am on Telegram.
All right, I'm gonna hit you up. I want to see them
Hey
slides too.
Silva, by the
Sure.
way, just since you're off mic, please keep hanging out. But we covered that story yesterday. If there's an update that's meaningful,
Oh,
by means, feel free to cover it. Or if you want to share another story before we get to you, by all
oh no,
means,
I
feel free
just
to do
saw
that
it.
too.
I just saw it today. If you guys covered it, no big deal. That's cool.
Come on, dude. Not we. You listen. If we're breaking news here,
John,
you know we're
John,
covering the news.
could I just follow up with Mark one question? He might have said this already, but
Go
Mark,
ahead, Neil.
how'd you get connected to this Fortune 10 company? Did you say
Oh,
that?
yeah. So my company, which is actually like another big monster company, they contract to them. They just had a contract for cybersecurity work, and I
Oh,
got
gotcha.
hired
Yeah,
there a
I heard
couple,
you say
yeah,
that. My
yeah,
bad.
a couple of years ago, and then yeah, it's just been fun. And here's another tiny little news. It's not really news, but when I first joined that company, once again, I was talking to coworkers about blockchains and all that type of crap. And so I got stuck on some little project reviewing this company experimenting with blockchains within their corporate environment. So, and you know what? And at the time, I actually told them, don't do it. It's not, that's not what it's for. It's for money. It's not for, you know, what they wanted to do it for. So they actually kind of slowed down on that, but it's very interesting. They've been looking at this stuff for years.
Just to be clear, are they a current Fortune 10, or were they just perhaps part of the Fortune 10 at one time?
They should be current. They should be current. They're a big company that everyone knows.
My God, I cannot wait. Hey Neil, we'll back channel on this one, bro. But you know, all joking aside, Mark, thanks for that. Anybody want to
Sure,
chime in on
sure.
that story? I'm happy to spend more than 3 or 4 minutes. I'll hang out for another 10 or so, just because my call just got pushed back a little bit, and I definitely am still interested in the news of the day. So yeah, feel free to chime in. Anyone on stage? Joe, welcome. Amanda, welcome. Travis, welcome.
I was here earlier for the Ethereum stuff,
No,
but
stay on, please. By all means. I just wanted to make sure no one else wanted to chime in on that. I can talk about. I can do the mental masturbation on who's buying massive amounts of Bitcoin like pretty much all day. So I don't know if I was
When
trying to tease the group to try to talk a little bit more about it. To be honest with you.
when will we find out, Mark? When will it become public information? Is it going to be relatively soon, or
Oh,
next report, or
yeah,
what do you
I
think?
don't,
Or are they just
I don't think, I don't think they're just going to go up and buying today and throw it on the balance sheet or whatever. But I could see maybe they're a pretty conservative company. Let's put it that way. So you know, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. You know, something like
So
that.
it's
Just to be clear,
Yeah.
to reset this, Mark was invited to talk to the company's executives, I believe, right,
Mm-hmm.
Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yep.
want to
Yep.
take the story from here? I don't want to like recite your story.
Well,
I just
yeah,
want to
yeah,
set the stage. Like you were
yeah.
invited through personal connections because you'd orange pilled one of the
Mm-hmm.
higher ups, and they pulled
Yes.
you in, and they
Yes.
were responded really, really well today. So I imagine
Yeah.
there's still a lot more work to be done to kind of go through T's and Q's
Exactly.
and decision making. But the seed's been planted. It looks like it was
Yep.
received really well, and it looks like it was a very favorable response and a holy shit, oh my God, this is like, oh my God
Exactly,
response. So
exactly.
yeah.
And there were a couple hundred people in the call. I did not expect that. The original invite went to like 10 people, and then everyone in that management group sent it sideways. So all their little underlings and all the little legal guys and all the little finance people and everyone else and their buddies, all the way up to some pretty high level extraordinarily high level people were on this call, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't expect this.
So this is going to get out, basically, what you're saying, if 100
Uh,
people know.
yeah, I mean,
You can just leak it here. It's not recorded or anything.
I don't, yeah,
No, you don't have to do
yeah, I
that,
don't,
Mark.
yeah, I
But
don't know. I mean,
so was it
yeah.
just about putting on their balance sheet, or was it
No,
also to incorporate in their business in some way?
no. So the blockchain stuff a couple years ago, when I had to do a security review on it, was actually using. It was actually two projects. That one of them was just because it's a big company. They have a lot of people traveling, right? And so they actually wanted to use a blockchain as kind of like a global assistant ID, where you'd have like all your travel records and your IDs and your passports and all this crap loaded onto a blockchain and encrypted, and then you'd have like your international wallet in your pocket in your phone, and you could like click a button. There's all your paperwork and passports and all that crap, and then you could just move around the world with that sort of stuff. And I told them, I was like, I don't really like that idea. You guys probably shouldn't do that. So they actually stopped that one. And then the second one was something to do with manufacturing. Let's put it that way. So they wanted to have like this basically decentralized teams doing building of stuff, and they wanted to manage all of that with a blockchain type of message passing system. And that was another one where I was like, no, you don't need to do that. You can do that with databases, and it's a lot faster and probably even more secure than making your own blockchain. But they're very interested in this stuff, and so pretty interesting bits and pieces. But to your question about do they want to put in balance sheets, they didn't ask those questions or anything like that. There really wasn't. I just explained it to them, and they were just like, huh, okay, all right, we see where we're coming from. And that's kind of where it's going. So now the little questions I'm getting on Teams, and you might have even heard the little ding in the background. That was people sending me questions for more info. Where can we read more about this? And like I said, it's a conservative company, so they don't just jump on something immediately. They have to they have to spend months and months and months researching and making sure it's good for them.
Mark, real quick, when you say you
Yeah.
explained it to them, what did you go over? I'm curious.
History of it, and then and you'll see on my slides. I'll send them out. History of it, basically how it works at a very high level. Like it's laughable how high it is. Basic what a miner is, what a node is, what a wallet is. I don't even detail how public key encryption works. I just say, look, you got a private key here and a public key here, and then worked on some of the principles of Bitcoin. And then I said, then the whole tone of the thing just kind of changes with a slide that says, what is money? And from there, it turns from like a little technology geek project talk to this holy shit moment. And it's just charts that I pulled from the Fed with a monetary basis and all the horrible charts that we see about inflation and money printing, and I just over and over and just slide after slide showing doom and gloom and what's going on with the U.S. dollar, and then I started making it happy. How does Bitcoin fix it? How does Bitcoin counter all of these mechanisms that are ruining the U.S. dollar? And I don't know if you heard that in the background. That's yet another question from someone asking about it.
No, that's awesome. I don't know if you'd be willing to share your slide deck, but I know we're working on some curriculum stuff for non-business, but for general. So I would love to compare notes with you and discuss.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I mean, I think as far as this company just throwing a bunch of money at Bitcoin and then saying, hey guys, we got a bunch, if they do that, it's probably not going to be for a couple years. If anything, they move pretty slow, but they are a company that does look forward. They don't think about now, they do look forward, and they have like 30-40 year plans. So hopefully Bitcoin gets kind of wedged in there with it. But yeah, just hit me up on Twitter, and I will email it out to you guys.
Hey, we need a breaking news like intro music. I know Brecky's on a call, so I'll have to remind him later. But we need a dun 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 breaking news. This is we need one of those next time, bro.
You gotta
That'd
get
be
the
awesome.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, we need something, man. We need that. That was like the thing is like the shit's happening in real time sometimes, like, and sometimes it's happening like an arm's length away. You know, it's just crazy, man. It's just bonkers, absolute bonkers.
You could even encourage people that are about to drop articles to come announce them on here before they drop them and do the breaking news thing.
Dustin's buddy, are you kidding me? Dustin's who? Jesus, I lost the author of
Was
the
it
article.
Colin?
Dustin took it. Yeah, it was Colin. Thank you so much. Hey, Colin, thanks. And like, yeah, that was pretty interesting too. From now on, Dustin, Colin, if ever you want to break your story on, you know, or talk about your story on the news hour, feel free to come through. Amanda, you there,
John,
sis?
how's it going? I just got to Austin, so just got to my Airbnb.
So you'll be the last story I listened to. My call got pushed back to 4:45, so I want to hear about Clean Spark's stock surge.
Yeah, so they're buying 23,000. CleanSpark is buying 23,000 more Bitcoin miners. So their stock surged 5.6 this morning, and I haven't checked on it since I read this article in the AM, but it would be interesting to see how it ended the day.
I'm shocked. British didn't tell me about the call options there, so we'll have to check.
Yeah, he needs more intel.
Touche. Anybody else want to talk about that? Any takes?
Can you give any background on CleanSpark, if they're and where they're involved and where they're?
Sorry, I was on mute. So what I understand CleanSpark to be, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but they're a software that makes microgrids. So it's mostly software service, and then they work on energy modeling and management. So probably, working on making mining more efficient, from what I understand.
Yeah, it looks like the stock traded down today on that.
Oh man. Okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah, it popped temporarily, and then now it's back down just below previous close.
It's just really not that significant of a buy. That's probably why.
What's awesome, and I didn't mention before, is that these guys are that Mint Green is also working with municipalities to provide heat to the actual city grid. So miners are going to be heating cities through immersion heat transfer as well.
How does that? Do you know how that works? Like how they capture it and move it?
Yeah, this company Mint Green out of Vancouver that was on the podcast that I was talking about. They use their immersion systems to capture the waste heat from the miners and transfer that through obviously the liquid into other applications, such as distilling whiskey, boiling seawater to make salt, and also partnering with actual cities to tie into their, like he was talking, I'm not sure how it works to the technicals, but he was talking about how they tie into the actual heating grid structure of the actual city infrastructure, and that they're going to literally be heating their city with Bitcoin miners.
Yeah, I think that's a great use of this energy that's being put out. Might as well. And then for folks that are in the audience that want to come up, if you can, even if you just want to comment on something, if you don't mind just putting a picture of the article in your profile picture so that we know. Sometimes people just pop up here and it's not relevant. So just trying to keep this moving quickly.
I think John is on his call. Dennis, are you running the room?
Yeah, sure. Happy. It looks like John just popped out of here. But what Amanda was saying, this is the news hour. So we put the headlines of the articles that we want to talk about. We've pretty much gone through most of them. I think we have a couple people left, though. Aaron, Aaron, was up next. Aaron, did you want to talk a little bit about what's in your headline? If you're interested in coming up on stage, do what Amanda said. Put a headline in your profile pic, even if we've already discussed it, so that we kind of know what your reason is for coming up on stage. But Aaron, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I was just Googling what mint green is. It seemed very confusing. So this is a story from Bloomberg about a U.S. bond ETF that is requesting a ticker change from PIFI to BTC, except that bond ETF has nothing to do with Bitcoin. So the full story was on Bloomberg. Grayscale, which is Barry Silbert's company, has announced an investment in Clear Shares. Clear Shares has a $32 million intermediate term bond ETF, which used to trade on the ticker symbol PIFI, and it's requesting a ticker change to BTC. Very interesting, what appears to be an intention to capitalize on mistaken identity. The effective date would be April 16th if effectuated. So we will see. There's some people paging the regulators about this name change, obviously. Very sober, Grayscale has invested in various other altcoins: Brave, Civic, Decentraland, Hashcash, Horizon, Ripple, The Graph, Tyrion, Zcash. So, and they also have funds for various other altcoins as well. So just interesting to note. It probably will be denied, but we will see.
I didn't even know it would be possible to change your ticker to something that would be misleading in that way. Is it something that's going to go through, Aaron, or does it look like it's going to go through, or what's the potential here of that actually happening?
Yeah, really surprising. I think now that Bloomberg wrote it up, it's probably going to get a lot of attention, and I doubt it goes through. But they did file. They did file here a prospectus on the 13th, which an effective date of the 16th. It's a supplement to the prospectus with just the ticker change from the 15th to the 16th. I don't know, honestly. Ticker changes I'm not that familiar with the mechanics of how those work, but we'll see. It's obviously very weird. It's very, very weird that this announcement from Grayscale is occurring at this time of this intended ticker change to an ETF that has nothing to do with Bitcoin.
We saw that iced tea company out of California go up 3 times in value by changing, I think it was blockchain or crypto they added to their name.
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting. It's amazing to see that Grayscale is pulling moves like that, though. Yeah, wild.
Again, it's not Grayscale itself. It's Clear Shares, which received an investment recently from Grayscale.
Thank you.
But it's obviously being pulled into that. So Grayscale is a pretty large, manager of capital. They have, I don't know how many billions under management, 50 plus, I don't know, it could be 100 plus. And they have a bunch of different investments. So I doubt that they are actually even that aware of it prior to today. So I'm sure they'll be making their phone calls.
Well, interesting news for sure. I'm going to keep things moving along here so we can get through some of the other headlines that people have on top. Aaron, thanks for sharing. We've got Aaron number 2, Aaron Jolly. I don't know if you're around. Haven't seen your mic come on much at all. But if Aaron Jolly, you want to go ahead and share your headline with us and talk a little bit about what you read from the article itself.
Thanks, Dennis. Yep, I'm here. So this article was in the Rob Report. It says this ultra-modern Beverly Hills mansion can be yours for 1,000 Bitcoin or 65 million. I don't think it's a big deal because I don't see people parting with their Bitcoin for real estate purchases just due to the appreciation of real estate versus Bitcoin. But it's certainly interesting to see it in the Rob Report. For those that don't know, it's kind of a publication for the ultra wealthy. So it's just another place where we're kind of bringing Bitcoin to the front page.
Only Jim Cramer's doing that right now.
Exactly, a paper hands Cramer.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some stuff like this in the past, but it's just interesting to see how the high net worth individuals, to me, it's more, I think, of a advertisement push for them. Obviously, we're all talking about it right now. So, all right, Aaron, anybody else want to jump in on the story or the real estate in general, and maybe more tying back to Jim Cramer? Otherwise, we can keep things moving along. We got a few more people in about 8 more minutes left of the show. We do these things for about an hour long, and then we cut it off. So far, it's been an interesting day having Mark break some news here on a Fortune 10 company. So if you missed out earlier, there's a Fortune 10 company that had Mark come on to their come speak to their board of directors and talk to them about Bitcoin, and they were very their jaws dropped in a good way. So thanks again, Mark, for coming up, and everybody else who's contributed. I'm going to keep things moving though. Let's see, Silva. Well, we covered that one last time, Silva.
Yeah, that's
but,
fine. That's fine.
Let's jump down to Peter. No, that doesn't look like a headline, is it? What is that, Peter?
This is good evening, everybody. It's a headline from actually the other side of the pond in Europe saying AXA, who are one of the biggest insurance companies, particularly over here, and banks, have started accepting Bitcoin as payments from their customers, which is a small headline with probably big impact because it just shows they're dipping their toe in the water. They've looked and realized that there's something to be working on. And the article goes on to say that they're doing all sorts of other work and research into the crypto space. So it's just another article. These come every day showing how much everything's growing.
I think the big news there is AXA's insurance. So again, typically a slower mover, more conservative.
Yeah.
You definitely don't expect to see these guys at the forefront, even if it is accepting policy payments or whatever it might be. So good news.
No, really. Yeah, I thought it was impactful and short and sweet.
Great. Let's keep it short and sweet. Keep moving along here. Yeah, I think we've seen, what is this, the third or fourth major insurance company to buy or to get involved with Bitcoin? We had Mass Mutual, and there was another one as well. So love to see these more conservative players getting into the market. Thanks, Peter, for sharing. Okay, we got Joe up next. Joe, long-term hodlers increasing their position size. Talk about it.
So this is not a news article, but I spotted it today and I independently verified through my account on Glassnode. Essentially, this was a tweet sent out by Documenting Bitcoin. Highly recommend to follow personally. He's always posting great stuff, he or she. And in particular, Glassnode, their on-chain metrics now show that they have a metric based on long-term hodlers. And as I understand the metric, it is based on identifying certain wallets and wallets that hold Bitcoin for an extremely long amount of time and coming up with a calculation based on that. Well, according to their calculation and what goes into their metric on Glassnode, which you can get more information on, we have flipped bullish for the first time since we broke 12K, which is actually surprising to me. The fact is that a lot of long-term hodlers were not accumulating. They were actually decreasing their net positions throughout the entirety of this run above 12K. That may explain why we had a significant amount of resistance, in the 50,000 to $60,000 range. A lot of people unloading supply, but it has flipped bullish, and now those same wallets are now accumulating Bitcoin or net accumulation of Bitcoin for the first time since crossing over 12K. So overall, if you want a daily dose of hopium, I'm your guy, and I think this is a great metric.
Yeah, that was Jim Cramer selling all his Bitcoin.
Joe, what's considered to be a long-term hodler as far as this metric is concerned?
So they go
through. It based on it's based on the wallets that have because it's how do they classify it?
Yeah, it's based on wallets, and they try to account for exchange wallets. They take exchange wallets, which obviously hold a ton of Bitcoin, out of the mix. So as I understand, a lot of the stuff with Glassnode is proprietary, but basically this is a metric they've put together that identifies certain long-term hodlers of Bitcoin, and they watch those wallets and develop this basically a calculation, this metric.
Can I ask a question, Joe?
Of course.
Why do people keep sending to the same address? Because basically, I'm going to guess that when people say wallets, they basically mean address. So why would they why wouldn't they send to different addresses? Why would they keep sending Bitcoin to the same address? I never understand this.
Yeah, I also never understand why people would have been selling Bitcoin, but people do things that for a lot of reasons that are nonsensical. But you're right. I mean, for security reasons, you should never use the same public key, repeatedly. It's just not good. But people do it. People, you can. There's wallets that have existed since 2012 that I've personally watched. Just some that I have identified that I think have called market peaks very well when they're sending, stuff to Binance or Coinbase. And those wallets, they keep. Not wallets. Those addresses, those public keys, keep using the same exact public key again and again. And you'd think somebody in Bitcoin that long would realize, for security reasons, that's not a wise move.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, Joe. That's why I was wondering, how are they able to track who these long-term hodlers are? And it's interesting to know that people that have been around Bitcoin this long, have been involved this long, are actually using the same address over and over again. It's funny because I've met people who have possessed Bitcoin, not close to me necessarily, but I've gotten into conversations with random people I've met who've been involved in Bitcoin for a very long time, and even miners, and they don't actually understand Bitcoin at all. I met this one miner one time where he'd been mining for years before, and when I got involved in 2017, he'd been mining for years before that, and he didn't even know why he got the mining reward. He didn't even know why he was getting paid. He just knew that if he plugged the machine in and booted up the software, he was going to get paid in Bitcoin, and then he, obviously would proceed to sell most of his Bitcoin. So it's just because someone's been around for a very long time in Bitcoin doesn't mean they necessarily understand it. Also, the same is true the other direction. There's people who have been around for very short periods of time who understand it to a very great degree. Someone like Tina, someone like Michael Saylor. They haven't been around for since the inception, but they tend to understand Bitcoin at a very high level compared to the people who have been around for a very long time. Joe, thanks for coming up. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to wrap this up, that's kind of the implicit point in this, that long-term hodlers were selling this entire bull run above 12K, which looking back in hindsight, or even beforehand, it's kind of amazing that they've missed a gigantic run. The amount of resistance they've unloaded and decreased their position. I think you're going to see a massive flip the other direction.
By the way, I've just noticed that from watching trading, and I've intuited that for a while, that there are these people, and it seems that some of them have endless amounts of Bitcoin. And I think we're trying to basically push the market down because they felt they could, and that was a strategy which worked well in the period of 2018, 2019, parts of 2020. But that stopped working, from my observation, after the crash in March of 2020. And the move from there, moving up, you'd see candles that people like to call, oh, Jesus, what do they call this? No, I can't think. Basically, it's an outside bar. Darth Maul candles. And you see a lot of Bitcoin sold, but it gets bought up. And so whereas previously that might have knocked the market down, it didn't. And you kept seeing these things form, and the market would barely budge. It was sort of like being in a bar, and the 180-pound guy punches the guy who weighs 350 in the face, but it turns out that 350 is all muscle. It's like the head barely moves, and then you're in trouble. And that's sort of what's happened here.
Completely agree.
All right, let's keep things. I think we got one last person. We're going to close out the show, but just in case you've been listening in, this has been the Bitcoin News Hour. We've been doing these daily. We're trying to figure out the best format for it. So far, it's been working pretty well. But what we do is we have people come up on stage, change their profile picture to whatever headline they want to talk about. They introduce the article and give a little 1 or 2 minute blurb on it. And then we as a panel discuss the news of the day, or maybe could be recent news as well. But we got one last person here with us. We got Jason with one more article. Let's see, which one are we on here? I can't read that whole article on your picture there, Jason, but why don't you introduce that for us, and that will close us out, and we will be finishing up the show. Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, so real quick, it's an article in MarketWatch, and it's about a hearing that happened this morning with the former OCC comptroller, Brian Brooks, and they were talking about some of the new, banking charters that were like the Wyoming Speedies, and a lot of them made some real insults to the guy from Illinois, congressman, said that Wyoming has more senators than people, and that stirred others up in Wyoming about it. So they were sort of like questioning some of these new banking charters. But there was a couple of quotes I'll just read real quick in the article, because a couple of congressmen couldn't help themselves but take some real shots at Bitcoin. Brad Sherman said, "I've looked at Bitcoin and wondered if there's a big enough market among terrorists, drug dealers, and it didn't seem to be enough. And then I realized there was $1 trillion per year in unreported taxes, mostly for the wealthy. Bitcoin, it's not just for narco terrorists anymore, it's for tax evaders too. That's the market for Bitcoin." And then what I'm going to try to do really fast, if I can, is PTR in one moment. Because another congressman took he did a picture of this. He put together a whole picture showing that, Bitcoin is now for tax evaders as well as money launderers. And if you PTR now, you will see that's Brad Sherman, and another congressman made fun of him by putting a little thought of, why aren't people listening to me? And you can't see the whole chart, but it shows the Bitcoin chart going up, 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 which I thought was really funny. So that's that.
I always find it very funny when anybody tries to say that Bitcoin is used for illicit activity, when the dollar is probably the number one medium of exchange used for illicit activity. So I just always find it extremely hilarious. You can track pretty much everything down. People that were using this stuff for the Silk Road at the back in the day, that was a horrible idea. This stuff is pretty traceable when you figure out, who someone is, or if they're not careful with their OPSEC. So to me, it's just always hilarious. The dollar is the number one form of currency for illicit activity. It's a well-known fact that paper currencies are best used for crime. They are untraceable, highly portable. I just don't understand where this FUD even comes from.
Brad Sherman is supported by several big financial companies. I think they might be financial transaction processors. I've heard this before, but I never really put enough brain power into remembering it. But he gets a lot of his financial support from businesses that are threatened very much by the success of Bitcoin. So it's understandable. He's protecting his donors. That's his job as a congressman. That's what he's doing. And he's very threatened by Bitcoin. So ultimately, the most successful thing one can do is to primary Brad Sherman. He runs in a Democratic primary, so you're going to want to primary him with a Democratic pro-Bitcoin congressman. So hopefully there'll be some people who have enough money to put together and primary Brad Sherman and replace him with a Democratic congressman who's pro-Bitcoin and takes a different tact. And then we do away with Brad Sherman.
To Brad's credit, though, I will say he does understand Bitcoin. He understands the threat it poses to the U.S. dollar. He just doesn't understand that Bitcoin is actually patriotic and in line with American ideals. So I always find that a bit funny.
Oh, I agree with you, Brecky, though. Bitcoin is definitely much more in line with the original vision of, American idealism, especially when it comes to, what is essentially a taxation without representation, where they're inflating the money supply and stealing from their own citizens. And Bitcoin puts an end to that. But if you live in California in the 30th Congressional District, go ahead and do what Tina said and run for Congress, and we will support you. That's for sure. All right. Any closing comments? Also, great to see you, Shelly. Great to see you, Tina. Thank you, everybody who's contributed. If anybody has any closing comments, go ahead. If not, I think I'm going to play the closing music here that someone sent me.
What a show, folks! Thank you to everyone who contributed and to everyone who listened in. Don't forget to join Cafe Bitcoin by clicking on Cafe Bitcoin at the top left of your screen. And remember to find our full schedule of events at cafebitcoin.club. We hope to see you again next time for the Bitcoin News Hour.